Quite hard to match, and so you need that kind of high acid wine.
So, do you think many people that are sitting down to pizza actually sit down with wine, or do you think they mainly sit down with the beer? Do they make it an occasion? You know, like our pizzas are an occasion as compared to some of the other brands.
I think a lot of people will sit down, like now that New Zealand's a wine growing country and kind of wine is now part of the culture, I think a lot of people will sit down with pizza and wine, but not necessarily the wine that may match the pizza the best.
You'll
Also,
still find, yeah.
it depends on what they've got in the fridge, or kind of they've nipped to the store, and pizza to me is quite an impulsive kind of purchase. And then you look through a menu and then you just decide then, and so your wine match, not many people probably do that. Unless you go to a restaurant, and then I think that's probably a different case where you can actually get a pizza to match your wine, or the other way around. I will always get a pizza to match my wine.
Yeah. So you pick your wine.
I pick my wine, the one that I want to drink, and then I'd probably choose the pizza.
Base ingredients.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got to say that is lovely.
That's a
Pizza?
pizza?
Yeah.
That pizza.
Yeah.
That's my favourite pizza.
It's pepperoni on top that makes it.
The vegetarian.
Nice vegetarian pepperoni pizza. But it's actually got a bit of a kick. It gives it a bit of a kick, which is quite nice. The acid in the wine is the thing that gets it through, I think. Otherwise, I think that Pinot Gris, if you taste the Pinot Gris with that,
Yeah.
you'd be lost.
Yeah.
It'd be too sweet and wouldn't have enough acid.
It's far more, it's kind of almost more savoury actually than even the chicken.
Yeah.
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 I think the salsa brings a little bit more sugar into the actual flavour of the pizza.
Glenn to the superior upbringing from myself.
Jeez, yeah. Go for gold.
He's like,
A few more glasses of wine, I'll be right into it.
one more drink, yeah.
Because the next one is, for me, like red wine and pizza are probably the most kind of synonymous. Kind of everybody assumes you drink red wine with pizza. Because of the tomato base, you need something that's got a good bit of acid with it, and also meat. A lot of pizzas contain meat, so they assume that you should have kind of red wine with it. But kind of, I think the white wine for me, especially in the summer, Auckland summers kind of get ripping hot, and you just want that kind of nice, at lunchtime, white wine and pizza. That's how I would,
chilled, yeah.
Yeah, something slightly chilled, and but of an evening we've been having these pretty cold snaps, and so red wine sales obviously go up, and so trying to match a red wine with a pizza is it's fairly easy for us.
So how would you classify a Pinot Noir? And how would you match that to a pizza?
I'd want some pretty delicate flavours. You'd probably get away with something kind of with a bit of kind of roast beef on a pizza or something like that. As soon as you get a kind of spicy kind of character, then you may lose the delicate nature of a Pinot Noir, because it's a thin skinned grape, it's delicate, and any kind of cheese you may lose the kind of flavour with Pinot. If it's especially like feta and stuff like that, you want something fairly delicate. So what pizza would match that?
We're actually having a beef pizza.
I was thinking something like an Italy would match it, because it's quite dulled down. It's a lot of fresh ingredients.
Yeah, and that's what you need really with that. But the next one that we're going to have is the Wild Rock Gravel Pit Red. So the name kind of suggests that it's going to be fairly kind of meaty and beefy.
Hawke's Bay.
Hawke's Bay. And you see from the colour.
Not really yours, but
You see from the colour that it's quite dark. It's quite plummy.
now that's become a lot more popular recently, so especially over the last 2 or 3 years. It's come a long way, hasn't it?
Yeah. It was always a kind of varietal that used to be the most important grape in the world, Malbec, until we stole. Well, when Britain owned Bordeaux, we blockaded the Gironde River, so they couldn't send their wine from Gore up the Gironde into Bordeaux. So, kind of the Poms just were controlling Bordeaux, so all the wine went in barrels on boats to London and was bottled in London.
Yeah.
So that's how Bordeaux became so popular. Once we got kicked out of Bordeaux, we went down to kind of Portugal, and that's where all the kind of port houses and everything kind of have got English names. And when we got kicked out of Portugal, we went down to kind of Spain, southern Spain, Jerez, with the sherry and stuff like that. And then we got kicked out of there. Then we colonised kind of Australia and New Zealand.
You often find, because you almost find that it's a Cabernet Malbec as opposed to...
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the grapes, Cabernet, Merlot, Malbec, Petit Verdot, are all kind of Bordeaux grapes, but kind of as a single varietal, you'd find Malbec in core, and now Argentina.
Yeah, Argentina is stunning. It's up and coming, that's for sure. It's a beautiful presenter, no?
Yeah, I mean, their old label was pretty heinous, but now they've kind of got a bit of an embossed label. It's really positioned them well in the marketplace right now, because they're fairly good. It's a sister label of Craggy Range.
Wow.
So what do you get off the nose of this?
So it's quite a light, well typically Malbec anyway, is and Merlot together, usually a lighter flavour.
It's fruity. Fruity, yeah. Blackberry, I get blackberry, blackcurrant, all of those kind of black fruits.
Yeah.
Plummy.
It's beautiful.
And hopefully it's going to match.
It's easy drinking.
Well, yeah, that's, yeah.
Real easy drinking.
Because Chile have this kind of expression which I really like, our wines are made to be swallowed. They would say that. And that's the way I feel about this wine. And they make a lot of kind of Cabernet, Merlot, kind of Malbec kind of base wines and stuff like that.
Yeah. Certainly very smooth.
Yeah, so we got matched this up with the Lust, which is Cabernet and salami, ham. So you know, if you want to downgrade the experience, you could call it sort of meat lovers for Pizza Hut, but it's obviously
we don't want to do that.
No, obviously the meats are a lot higher quality than that, but it's got a barbecue sauce.
And that's one of the difficult things. Barbecue sauce is quite a dominant sauce, so you've got to get a wine that kind of like goes above that. It's also got a bit of sweetness there, and so with the dryness of the wine, so the wine is quite dry. I think the sweetness and that dryness kind of like balance out pretty well.
So what would you marry up a Shiraz with, being very full-bodied-ish?
A big full-bodied kind of Aussie Shiraz that's quite jammy, then you can get away with something that's quite spicy and quite full-on. So kind of any kind of pizza that's got a lot of meat on.
A wrath perhaps, maybe with our pepperoni and jalapenos.
Yeah, something like that you can get away with, or kind of. You may even get away with a Gewürztraminer on something quite spicy like that. Any kind of spiciness, if it can't be matched by kind of that big kind of heavy Aussie Shiraz or a Gewürz, then you're probably best drinking beer.
All right, I'll switch the question around. What about anchovies? Anchovy type. People that like the soul. What would that match with? Anything?
I drink beer.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
the squincher.
Yeah, it's bloody difficult to match anchovy. Yeah. That got a really dominant flavour as well, and they will pretty much kind of ruin your palate.
I love anchovies.
So do I.
Anchovies.
Such a controversial ingredient.